When a city as dynamic and complex as Milan sets a target for, well, zero-emission urban transport by 2030, you have to ask, how?
Right.
That's not a goal you reach by just, asking nicely. It takes deep structural change, and that's exactly what you sent us to investigate.
It's a huge question, especially for a major European hub like Milan. We have this really detailed report here from TRT for the Clean Cities campaign.
And it doesn't just ask how, it actually models 4 potential paths to get there.
Exactly. And the starting line it's pretty daunting. In 2019, Milan's urban transport was generating 911 kilotons of CO2 equivalents.
Okay, and we should probably clarify what that number means right up front. We're talking about tank-to-wheel emissions. So for you listening, that means the emissions generated right there on the street,
Yeah.
from the fuel being burned in the car's engine.
It's not the whole life cycle.
No, it doesn't count emissions from producing the electricity or refining the fuel. But focusing on tank-to-wheel, it really lets us isolate the impact of the mobility choices happening right there in the city.
Precisely. And the report breaks down that journey from 911 kilotons to hopefully 0 through these 4 scenarios. Each one has a totally different policy focus.
So first we have SO1, they call it the active and collective scenario.
The behavior change route.
Maximum focus on bike lanes, public transit, and pricing measures to manage how many people are driving.
Then you have SO2, that's the technology forward path, simply called all electric.
Just electrify everything.
Yeah, get the EVs on the road, build the charging stations, and let technology solve the problem. SO3 is, I guess, the compromise. It combines policies from both SO1 and SO2 at levels the report calls ambitious but attainable.
And then there's the big one, the one we really need to dig into, SO4.
Emission zero.
This scenario takes all those policies from SO3 and just cranks them up to the absolute limits of what's feasible to see if that zero target is even possible.
So our mission today is really to see what that actually costs the city financially and, socially to get anywhere close to that target.
Let's start with, I guess, a piece of good news. Milan isn't starting from scratch.
Not at all. Even if the local government did absolutely nothing, a pretty significant reduction is already baked in.
From global trends.
Exactly. We call it the technological innovation trend. This is stuff like EU-level mandates on engine efficiency, just the natural process of people replacing old cars with newer, cleaner ones.
Okay.
The report estimates this trend alone accounts for an automatic 24% reduction in those tank-to-wheel emissions by 2030.
25%.
That's 223 kilotons of CO2 gone before a single new bike lane is even painted.
So that's the floor. Any policy discussion has to start from that 24% drop. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. When the city does start intervening, if they choose to focus purely on behavioral change, that's S01, the total reduction hits 54%.
Okay.
But if they focus purely on electrification SR2, the reduction is 56%.
Which is striking because those are 2 completely different philosophies, right? Pushing people out of cars versus just making the cars cleaner.
And they get almost the exact same result.
Yeah, they both get you about halfway there. It suggests that up to that 55% reduction point, you get pretty similar climate benefits whether you focus on modal shift or a big tech swap.
So this is the part I don't get. If one is 54% and the other is 56%, why did SO3, the scenario that combines them, only get the total reduction to 60%? You'd think adding them together would get you much higher, but the data says no.
This is the critical systems interaction the report flags. It's the, but wait, there's a catch moment. When you model policies together, they can sometimes, they can work against each other.
So they dilute each other's effectiveness. Give us an example of how that works.
Okay, think about a low-emission zone, an LEZ.
Right.
It's designed to be a painful tool. It bans old, polluting cars, and that forces the owner to either buy a cleaner vehicle or switch to public transport.
So it's a stick.
It's a stick.
Yeah.
But if Milan also follows the SO2 path, which pushes for rapid EV uptake, a huge chunk of those old diesel cars just get replaced by new electric vehicles.
Ah, I see. And because the new electric car is exempt from the LEZ.
The driver is never forced to make that bigger behavioral change. They're never pushed onto the tram or onto a bicycle.
So the LEZ succeeds in cutting emissions, but it completely fails in its other goal, which is reducing congestion and car dependency.
Exactly. That rapid EV uptake becomes an obstacle to the modal shift that SO1 was all about. And that lack of additivity is why SO3 only gets us to 60%.
That tension brings us straight to the mobility data. SO2, that all-electric path, it gave Milan a great GHG reduction.
a 56% drop.
But it resulted in the lowest reduction in private car vehicle kilometers, or V-kilometer. Only an 18.6% drop in how much people were actually driving.
Now compare that to SO1, the behavioral scenario. That one achieved a much stronger 26.5% reduction in car use.
Because it targeted the driving itself, not just the tailpipe.
Right. The core message here for you, the listener, is that just because the tailpipe emissions are zero, it doesn't mean the city's problems with traffic and, just the sheer space cars take up have been solved.
And Milan has a really unique challenge here. The city isn't an island.
No, far from it.
Nearly 4 out of every 10 trips, 39% are commuters flooding in from the surrounding areas. If all those commuters just swap their old SUVs for new electric SUVs, the city center is still completely choked with traffic.
And managing that traffic, it comes with a trade-off, a cost to the individual. We see it clearly in the modeling. Travel time
goes up.
It does. Policies like expanding traffic calming measures, the report estimates these will cover 85% of the core city in that SO4 scenario, or shifting people to modes that are just slower, like walking or public transit. It all adds up.
So across all the scenarios, the average travel time increases a little bit, but in SO4, the most ambitious one, it's up by 8.5%. That's a real political challenge to sell.
It is, but it's a challenge that comes with enormous social gains, which we'll get to. But first, let's pivot from passenger trips to logistics.
Urban freight.
Yeah, because freight was a surprisingly big piece of the pie. It accounted for 20% of all transport CO2 in 2019.
So how does the report clean up that sector? For the delivery vans, the light-duty vehicles?
For those, SO2 and SO3 get a very respectable 55% EV uptake. But SO4, the near-zero scenario, that requires a genuine radical shift in how goods move around the city.
Which is?
It means an absolute explosion in cargo bikes.
How big of an explosion are we talking?
The cargo bike vehicle kilometers, it rises to 404 million V-kilometers per year in SO4. That's a volume that tells you these aren't just for delivering small packages anymore.
No.
This is serious commercial and industrial delivery inside the city core, replacing whole fleets of vans. It's a fundamental change in the city's DNA.
And for the biggest polluters? The heavy-duty vehicles, the HDVs.
SO4 pushes for serious change there, too. The fleet share of battery electric and hydrogen trucks jumps to 36.7%.
Almost 40%.
And crucially, that's almost all battery electric, 35.4% BEV, only 1.3% hydrogen. It's a huge jump from the other scenarios, which only see about a 4% shift for heavy trucks. It really confirms that to get near zero, you have to decarbonize the big rigs.
Let's shift now to the co-benefits. The stuff people in Milan would feel immediately. Air quality saw some fantastic gains.
The data on nitrogen oxides, NOx, is particularly impressive.
How impressive?
NOx emissions see the most striking reduction. They drop by over 80% in the moderate scenarios, and in SO4 they had a reduction of over 90%.
Wow.
And that's a direct result of getting cleaner engines on the road and, aggressively pushing the oldest, dirtiest trucks and cars out. When you clean up combustion, those exhaust pollutants just plummet.
But the reductions for particulate matter, PM2.5, they're not as good. They range from a 39% reduction in SO1 up to about 57% in SO4. Why the cap on PM2.5?
That's another key finding for you to think about. Even a fully electric vehicle, it still generates PM2.5.
From the tires and brakes.
Exactly. We call them non-exhaust components, particulate matter from tire wear, from brake wear, and from just churning up road dust. So even though SO4 has fewer cars, and they're all electric, those non-exhaust emissions mean the total PM2.5 reduction is structurally limited.
Okay, now for the massive societal gain. The one that actually pays the biggest financial dividend in the whole report.
Road safety.
The safety dividend, as they call it.
The correlation here is it's stark. If you look at SO1, SO3, and SO4, the scenarios that all prioritize infrastructure, traffic calming, and getting people out of their cars, they all see road traffic deaths drop by 47% to 49%.
Almost in half. But what about SO2, the scenario that just swapped a gas car for an electric car?
That one only achieved a 12% reduction in traffic deaths.
12% versus almost 50%.
That comparison is maybe the most powerful piece of evidence in the whole study. It proves that policies focused on infrastructure, on slowing cars down, on getting people onto safer modes, they provide these profound, quantifiable safety benefits.
So much so that the money saved from fewer accidents is the biggest win.
It is. When you monetize all the external savings from GHGs, from air pollution, from noise, the savings from improved road safety are actually the largest single portion of that benefit.
That's a huge insight. The policies that save lives are the biggest financial win for the city, even before you start counting carbon.
Absolutely. And the good news for policymakers is that overall, the economics are positive. In all four scenarios, the total external savings, the value of cleaner air and fewer deaths outweigh the total net costs of actually doing it.
So the investment pays for itself. But let's look at SO4, the path to near zero. That's
Yeah.
the most expensive one, right? We're talking 2.05 billion euros in total net costs.
Yes, it costs the most, but it also achieves the most. And because SO4 gets that massive 91% emissions reduction, the sheer volume of CO2 it abates means it actually delivers the best cost-effectiveness ratio of all four paths.
So it's the best bang for your buck.
Only €309 per ton of CO2 equivalent reduced.
So the lesson isn't just spend less. It's that massive, coordinated investment pays off best when it achieves the highest level of abatement. Volume matters.
Correct. The data is definitive on this. If Milan actually wants to get close to zero, they have to be talking about SO4. It's the only one that gets them a 91% reduction.
But that requires truly radical changes. It means pushing policy to the absolute limit. So let's detail some of those, because this is where the behavioral reality really hits home. What does SO4 demand from the average person living in Milan?
It demands an immediate and probably painful increase in pricing. Specifically, the report models tripling parking fees compared to what they were in 2019.
Triple. That's a major deterrent.
And access restrictions go way beyond a normal low-emission zone. SO4 implements a zero-emission zone, a ZEZ, that covers 100% of the study area.
The entire city. So what does that mean in practice?
It means virtually no internal combustion engine vehicles allowed in at all. Only fuel cell, plug-in hybrid, and full battery electric vehicles can get access.
And on the behavioral side, the social demands are even bigger.
Oh, yeah. Instead of, maybe one car-free Sunday a month, SO4 requires one car-free day every week.
1 day a week. That's a fundamental lifestyle change for the whole community, not just a policy, but a constant weekly reminder of the transition.
And to support that, you need heavy investment in infrastructure. We're talking reserved public transport lanes covering 25% of the entire road network.
And for the EVs that are allowed, you need way more chargers.
A lot more. The target in SO4 is at least one charging point for every 5 EVs. That's a much denser network than the 1-to-8 ratio in the other scenarios.
But the scale of the SO4 challenge is probably captured best by one final statistic. To get that 91% reduction,
You need to reduce overall car ownership in the city by 27%.
get rid of more than a quarter of all cars.
That kind of reduction demands both the massive tech change and these profound behavioral shifts, all driven by price signals and infrastructure that just makes public and active transport easier and cheaper than owning a car.
So what really stands out to me is that the data is it's crystal clear. Milan cannot just electrify its way out of this problem.
Oh.
That SO2 path, it only gets them halfway there, and it still leaves them with a congested, less safe city. They have to embrace the comprehensive approach from SO4.
The only viable route is this combination of hard constraints, like the 100% per seat EZ and the tripled parking fees, but matched with compelling alternative. New metro lines, heavily discounted public transport fares, especially for young people and the elderly. You have to offer a carrot with the stick.
And there's one last piece of information in the report that, for me, makes the case for SO4 even stronger.
Right. This gets into what the analysis didn't quantify.
Exactly. While the report monetized the huge savings from cleaner air and fewer road deaths, and that was already enough to justify the costs, it specifically noted that it did not try to monetize the health benefits from increased physical activity.
All that extra walking and cycling.
Yeah, the simple, cumulative health benefits spurred by that massive modal shift in SO4. Since those policies rely so heavily on getting people active, the true economic and social benefits could actually be far higher than the already impressive figures they calculated.
It's a powerful incentive to look beyond just the tailpipe.
Absolutely. The decision for Milan, and really for any major city with a zero-emission target, isn't whether to invest, but how comprehensively to invest.
Well said.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Milan's ambitious future. We hope this exploration of the source material was clear and interesting for you.
We certainly appreciate you trusting us to synthesize this really critical information.
Please be sure to follow the channel for more deep dives into complex topics that matter to you. We'll see you next time.